So something in Canvas went wrong, I think, but I'm going to try to have a backup plan here. But thanks for mentioning that, yeah. I don't think I did anything wrong because there's only so much I can do wrong if they can hear me and it is recording. But we're going to try to have a backup plan here. Yeah, I mean, if there's no sound, there's no sound. So I don't know what happened there. Yeah. Hopefully that was a one-time deal. So come on, come on, come on. Nope, looks good. Come on. Just so we can open up a zip file. You'll see how easy it is, and this will make you very unhappy. Okay, any other questions in here? Try to be patient. I'm going to try to check back to see if there's questions in our chat, but I'm not going to have this up the whole time because the big screen gets all crazy.
Would Atom be the best app to use for this project?
It's an app to use for this project.
That doesn't really
No, that's a very personal choice, and it's just that's the text editor that I've been using the last few years, so I like it. But I'm even like I think I mentioned the other day, I'm gonna probably be moving to a Visual Studio Code, mostly because that's what so many other people are using. So they're both open source. They're both basically owned by Microsoft. So I think all the weight is kind of being pushed over to Visual Studio Code. And there's pros and cons, just like anything else. There's pros and cons between the two of them. I don't love everything about Visual Studio Code, but even the things that you don't like about some of these very flexible text editors, you can fix with plugins and add-ons and things. Yeah. That said, I really like Atom a lot. And there's going to be some growing pains. That's why I'm still using it instead of just switching cold turkey. Oh, geesh. Every time I log into Windows, it's always updates like this. This is why I loathe doing it. All right. So. I probably have a zip file in here, right? Nope. Okay, I don't have anything in there. All right. Cloud Drive. Come on. Come on. All right. And I think I have the zip file in here. No, wasn't fully done loading, I think. All right. Yep. So, well, we have, let's see. Hello world. I don't have, maybe I did delete it. So, but regardless, all zip files are kind of the same. So if I single click on the zip file, you'll see extract up at the top. And I can just hit that extract button that appears. And I'm going to get rid of all this junk. And I'm going to hit extract all. And it's going to ask me where I want to extract it all. In this case, probably into the same folder. And extract, and then it's going to open up the folder once it's all done, I think. Yep. So then you should be able to access the files right in here. So it'll open it wherever you extract it. So it's probably a good idea to move that zip file. It'll be by default in your downloads folder. It's probably a good idea to put it into, like I have it in kind of a hierarchy of where my projects are. It's probably a good idea to do that. But that's entirely up to you. Like I'm never going to see that unless you explicitly show it to me on your computer. So I don't really care how you organize your stuff, but some kind of organizational method is probably helpful. So, I just have my stuff, like I have, the semester, the course, and then the project. So does that help? Anybody have any questions about that at all? On the Mac, it's easier. You just double click on the file and it just opens it. It does basically that operation. So, all right. So all that, so we can get out of here, I think. Actually, I might not quit out of here because maybe we'll use this to show how to access our server. So one other thing we have to do is we have to. I'm going to quit out of this, I think. It's going to be too slow. All right. So, any other questions pop in the meantime? No. You guys got to ask questions. There's so many questions. So many questions. Anything HTML, CSS, JavaScript is always fair game, always, and really almost anything else is fair game too. So don't feel like you can't ask almost any questions. All right, so we are going to shift gears just a little bit though, and we got sent a thing for us to go through here. I probably should have saved it off. So. So hopefully I don't have any private emails. If you emailed me and you feel it was private, I apologize. It's now not going to be super private. But we need this right here. I don't know if it downloaded. Come on. There we go. All right. So we should be able to close this up now. So we want this guy. No, that isn't what I want. I want the. Well, okay. So this is one thing. So what are we? Tuesday, Thursdays. So I'd highly recommend that you guys do this. So you should put this on your calendar. So this was sent out by Linda Peacock. She handles job placement with the university. Ordinarily, under normal circumstances, she comes in and she gives a big presentation. I think she gave me some slides, so I'm going to have to go back into my email. But jot this down if you're at all interested in this. There are lots of organizations looking for interns, typically. I know last semester was a little weird, where a bunch of internships were canceled, but I think a lot of those are back on. So anybody interested in this should sign up for this. And I'll get this into Canvas too. Any questions about that? It's like a job fair thing, yeah. I'm sorry, what? Do you get training in the internship? I mean, it really depends. Typically, you do though. So, but that's something that you discuss with whoever you have the internship with. Yeah. But typically, like they know what they're getting into. You know, they're going to interview you, and you're going to disclose to them what your skill level is, and they're going to feel comfortable with that or not, and they're going to train you on whatever else they think you're going to need. So, I mean, hopefully that's not going to be a surprise for anybody involved. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good question. All right, so let's. I thought she gave me some slides too. Hope I didn't delete that. 'Cause she has a whole bunch of stuff that she goes through every semester, so I do want you guys to have all that stuff. Let's see. Oh, this is the thing I want. It's a bunch of things. Okay. Well, let's see. All right. So, I gotta download each of these things, I guess. And I will put these all in Canvas. But I'll go through these first because I know a lot of the answers because she's gone through this before, but I don't know all the answers. But okay. So one thing is, you guys familiar with handshake? Yes. Kind of? Okay. I've seen more head nods than to the affirmative than the negative. If you're not, I will put this up in Canvas either way. So this explains to you how to access Handshake resource library. So that's good. So this is what she usually does as her presentation. So I will go through this real quick for you. So, yeah, I usually jump in on some of these things, but these are good questions actually. So, just anybody wants to throw out any answers here, including anybody that's in the chat. Why did you guys decide? Why anybody as an individual? Why did you decide to pursue a college degree? Anybody want to throw out an answer? Nobody cares. You're here just to kill time? Yeah. To have a better job? Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody in the chat here? Where did I go? Let's see. Anybody in the chat? Putting you on the spot? Nobody. Everybody's here just to kill time. I can think of way more fun things to do. Yeah. Yeah, to learn stuff and play soccer. Okay. I mean, that's good. Might be kind of expensive. I don't know. Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. So specifically to learn coding. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So I don't know that there's necessarily wrong answers, but let's see. Where did my thing go? There we go. So what benefits do you think you gain by being here, as opposed to not, right? Because what's the alternative to not being here? Keeping your money and like doing what? Like it's like noon. Like what if you're not here? What would you be doing instead? Huh? Yeah, you probably have a job somewhere. So instead of spending your money, you'd be making money. You might be getting on-the-job training somewhere, right? Yeah. You go to trade school. So there's lots of alternatives, right? So I would say that from my perspective, the main benefit is there are certain categories of positions that are only open to people who have degrees, right? There's certain employers who will not look at anybody who does not have a degree. But other than that, it's a piece of your toolkit. So I do think that we have a more rigorous training program here in terms of what you learn than if you go to someplace like NWTC. Not that there's anything wrong with NWTC, and we trade students back and forth from there. But overall, if you get a 4-year degree here versus getting a 2-year certificate from over there, there is more that goes into this, right? So, all right. Career ready. Anybody have any ideas about career ready? Oh, everybody's putting stuff in the chat. Because it was mostly free. Mostly free. Okay, that might require more explanation, Tristan. All right. I mean, true, because I love money. Okay. Yes, money. It's free for me. What is all the free stuff? I don't understand the free stuff. Okay, so if you can get classes for free, I mean, I won't necessarily say this is the most awesome class, although I think it will be. But easier to move to a different country. I'm not sure about that. I don't know exactly why that is, but maybe. So my sergeant can get off my ass. Okay, I get that. Okay, so it's like a GI Bill thing? Okay. That is totally fair. That makes total sense. So, yeah. All right, so good answers, yeah. All right. So career ready. Anybody have any definitions of career ready? Yeah. Yeah. So kind of the first question, and I'm sorry that I don't know everybody's names and the masks don't help. So I'm really sorry about that. So I'm gonna do a lot of pointing. But that first question that I got about the internships, right? Do you receive training for that, right? I think to me, career ready means that you're gonna need the minimum amount of training on day one when you started. You're ready to start a job, right? So that's key. Anybody else? Anybody in the chat? Yes. That's a really good definition. Yeah, I think that's really good. I don't know if everybody heard that, but yeah, being comfortable and confident in your own skill set that you can offer the skill to somebody, whether that's an employer or as like an entrepreneur or an independent contractor. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I might steal that going forward. That's a really good definition. Yeah. Anybody else have anything? Although Linda usually does this. Hopefully she does in the future. Gain experience for career ready. Maybe. I mean that also is true, right? So if you graduate and you only had some internships, gaining actual real world experience, that you might look at that as being that's your career readiness. Yeah, I'd get behind that. So these are when surveys are done. I think I should remember this, and I don't. But I think this is a survey that we do here, and I could be wrong about that. But I think this is a survey that Linda's group does. But regardless, these are numbers from I think our area of what employers want. Okay. So the number one thing that employers want out of us is critical thinking, problem solving. Okay? And so I take these things to heart. Every year I see these things and I try to take these things to heart. Okay? And then the next thing, teamwork and collaboration. Okay? So on the first day, it like breaks my heart when I say that we can't have everybody here, right? Because I really wish we could do more collaborative things. So that really, that's kind of a bummer this semester, and hopefully we can get back to doing more of those things next semester. When you work in a job, you work collaboratively. You're not working on an island. So you're getting a little shortchanged on this stuff. It's hard to do group projects when we have to be 6 feet away from each other. But the critical thinking during class, before class, at the end of class, I always try to ask for questions and challenge me on that. You know, ask me questions that you are pretty sure I don't know the answer to. Ask questions that you might know the answer to, but you might think other people don't. And um, the whole goal here is we're doing things in this class, especially that are project based, and it's all about this. It's all about trying to figure out solutions, trying to problem solve, trying to critically think, trying to find the answer out yourself. Okay, but part of that is formulating questions and asking questions. Okay, so that is part of this process. So it doesn't mean you're on your own and I'm throwing you into the deep end of the pool and you're on your own. It means that you have to think and you have to formulate and communicate that. Okay, so I really believe in these first two, professionalism and work ethic. I would say if the survey was done now, a lot of that stuff, a lot of these things that we've taken like as gospel, um, I don't know what exactly people mean when they say this. Maybe you guys have, like, what does that mean to you guys? Professionalism and work ethic. And what did it mean a year ago, and what does it mean now? Because I was talking to my brother last night, and a lot of people have their kids at home doing school, and so they have their kids in the background while they're having meetings, and that's like an acceptable thing now. And a year ago, that would have been considered unprofessional, I think, by a lot of people. Now it's like an accepted norm. And I think going forward, it's going to be halvesies on that. You know, like it's not going to be like everyone's doing it, but I think a lot more people will do it and it'll be more acceptable. So, like, professionalism and work ethic's a little different, right? Work ethic, I think, I don't know what you guys think of that, but work ethic means like, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? You think it's about attitude? Yeah, I would say attitude and maybe intensity. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's attitude. You're probably right. Attitude. Yeah. Like work ethic is like, I always say you're in competition with, in our field, what we're doing. Of course, it's a worldwide field, what we do, but you're in competition with people that live, eat, and breathe this stuff. You know, like when I go home, you know what I do for fun? I watch videos about this stuff, and I read books about this stuff. Like, and I write programs sometimes for fun. So that feeds into it too, right? It's like having a passion for it. Anyway, and then always oral and written communication. That's always a huge one too, right? So another thing, like uh, when we have when we're stuck having a little chat window as our communication channel, that makes me very sad. So anyway, and again, I'll post all these things onto Canvas. So, and increasingly, college grads lack soft skills. So, you know, we do a great job of trying to give you knowledge about computer science, but sometimes not these soft skills. What do you guys think soft skills are? Um, yeah, I think it's, well, what do they say here? Employers want job candidates with uniquely human skills. So, I don't know. This is a little bit fuzzy, right? Like, it's not always, like, super clear, right? Yeah.
More subjective to people skills or more of like a blanket thing.
Yeah. It's really tough for, like, it's tough for the world. I'm not, like, saying just for us in particular. This is, right now, everyone has masks on. People are staying home, and, you know, everybody's working on Zoom calls. Like, so this stuff is really tough. I don't know if anybody in the chat, jump in. I'm going to try to flip back and forth to you guys. So anyway, like I said, I'll post this in Canvas. So these are all interesting statistics. Top skills needed in 2020: complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity. These are the things that I try to push in what we do here. So that's why this is all project based, and we do projects a little bit differently between them. So hopefully you like that and appreciate it. That I'm trying to come at it from this angle. Anybody want to throw out a idea of professionalism or characteristics of a professional? Yeah.
being like respectful of what you do.
Respectful. What was the last part?
Yeah, like pretty much like doing your job and listening and learning from other people.
Yeah. So treating your job with respect. Anybody in the chat have anything about professionalism? Anybody else? That's pretty good. Like respect, time management. Is that a professionalism thing? So I think that's fair. Trying to show up places on time. I know I was a little down to the wire myself today, but I really try to be punctual, even if it's an online thing. Try to be punctual. Um, and that's just me. I wouldn't say I'm the pinnacle of professionalism myself, but yeah. All right. So number one thing has completed an internship or organization, has completed an internship with an organization. So influence of candidate attributes on getting hired, right? So the number one way to get hired with a company is to have done an internship probably with that company. Okay. The second best way to get hired by a company is to have interned in that industry. So if you want to get hired by Google, intern with Google. If you want to get hired by Google and Google didn't give you an internship, get an internship with Microsoft. Okay. And then next is your major, and then so on down the line. And has held leadership position, so those are good. Some kind of a leadership position. That's always helpful. If you actually want to have, get like move forward in your career, have leadership positions. I know, like, again, we're in kind of a weird time, but when there's, I know we have women in technology as a group that's popular on campus. If there are opportunities to be a leader in things like that, you should do those things. All right. I don't know if Linda does this faster than me or not. I should time it next time. All right. Candidate attributes on a resume. Again, problem-solving skills. I gotta stop doing that. Problem-solving skills, ability to work in a team, strong work ethic. These same things keep coming up. Okay. So problem-solving skills. That's why we do projects in here. Okay. Here's Linda's list to get career ready. So connect with career services. That's her. I'll give you all that information. Get connected and involved now. I don't. Explore options on Handshake. So there are a list of, I don't know if you guys have ever logged into there. There are a list of internships and other job opportunities in there. You should make sure to complete your profile on Handshake. I would also, I don't know if it's, create a LinkedIn profile. That's further down the list. I would make sure to fill out your LinkedIn profile completely. You should make sure to link up with your fellow students. You should link up with me. You should link up with Linda if she's on there. I think she is. I'm sure she is. So anybody that you can, you should get connected with on LinkedIn. Complete a mock interview, draft a resume, secure an internship. Do all these things. And there is job fair. I don't know if she separated this out, so you guys should put this in your calendar. I know this kind of coincides with class, so. Let's go back. No questions in the chat. Everybody jot this down that wants to. I will put this in Canvas too. So, yes, sir.
Would it be possible to get an internship with no experience in the field, just with learning there, hands-on?
So, every internship is different. So it's going to depend, right? So, and different companies they approach internships differently. So it depends on how they want to develop their pipeline. I would say really good, successful companies that have a good pipeline of moving people from our university through into, to getting careers at their company, they would do that. they would want you to get an internship as early as possible, have you in there, even if you're, doing pretty crappy work to start with, but you're gaining some experience there, you're still going to school here, and then you're already there. It's easy for them to hire you, right? Because that's, again, like that's top of the list. How do we hire you? Well, we hire our interns first. So ideally, I would say like it's smart if they do that, but it's all over the place. It really depends. Yeah. And like that, and that's a question that Linda could probably give you more details on about like which places are like that. So if you want to be in the job fair, log into Handshake, and there should be info there. Okay. I don't know if like right now how true this stuff is about interviews. Have you guys done any interviews like in the last 6 months? Anybody? Anybody in the chat? Nobody's done any interviews? Nope. Yes, a ton. You've done a ton of interviews. So I'm saying like after the whole COVID thing, after spring break. Anybody that's done any? You have?
Yeah, a lot of interviews are done through Microsoft Teams or
Yeah.
Zoom or something like that,
Yeah.
and they require you to have a camera on,
Yeah.
so you still dress up for it.
Yeah.
And
So
it's basically like just in like two separate rooms instead of kind of in there.
so how dressy do you feel like you need to be for that?
It depends on the job, really.
Yeah. So, um, so, there are a lot of there's a lot of conflicting information about this, right? Because we have the, Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, and I come in and I have a T-shirt and a hoodie, right? But, and if you guys want to fire me because of like that, that's fine, right? But usually you dress for the job you want to have, right? So, or you dress above the pay grade of the job you're applying for, right? So you're never gonna really, for the most part, you're not gonna it's not gonna hurt to kind of overdress. So that's a thing that kind of needs to be reinforced because you don't know who's on the other side, right? And especially older people, they tend to appreciate that extra effort. It's more of an effort thing, yeah.
Kind of that type of professionalism that's dressing nice for the suits too.
Yeah, yeah. And and it's and these things kind of they change and they change over time and like what's considered business casual and for business formal goes up and down, but um, it you're not gonna go wrong by overdressing. So is what it is. All right. Not during COVID, yeah. All right. So, and with that in mind, if the university does not want money to be an issue for that, so there are ways for you to get access to professional clothing if you need it. So, if you need to, you can look into this. Uh, and absolutely, you should do mock interviews, even if you're not interviewing right now. I would take every opportunity that I could to do this. Unless you have your dream job and you are already, I don't know. I mean, maybe you think you're a pro at interviewing, but if I could, I'm not allowed to. I'm not a student, But if I could, I would go do a mock interview. I asked Linda if I could, and she said that I'm not a student, so I can't. Yeah, but why? Like, why not? Like, why not brush up on your interpersonal skills that way, right? So I would really highly recommend that. Have somebody and you could take it or leave it, right? But it's feedback on how you're communicating with somebody on the job. So I would highly recommend doing that. This is that thing that she already had. They do a bunch of these workshop things, and I think they're all online this year. Looks like it. Okay. So this particular thing, and again, I'll have it on Canvas, but there's a ton of material in here. This getting a professional photo done, this is free, and even if you already have a professional photo of yourself, I don't understand why you wouldn't do this. You should totally do this, okay? Um, like this looks like it's like during our class time. If you have to miss class for 15 minutes to go get your professional picture taken, do that. Like you should do this. This is stupid not to. I got professional photos taken. It was with someone that I had business connections with. It was still $200, and that was a deal. You should do this. You could do it every semester, I think. So, like, why not have a collection of professional photos that you can put on your profiles and on your resume? And you should definitely do this. Okay? Like, I don't know why anybody wouldn't. UW System Career Tracks. I don't even know what this is. So I'm not going to discuss it, but you should check this out. And then she has a bunch of other resources. So there's the Career Services website. That's how you can get in touch with Linda, I think. And there's a bunch of videos there. Oh, she has some recorded videos already done. I would definitely do that. There's no reason not to do that. You don't even need to have that doesn't even need to meet your schedule. There are templates for business cards, so even if you don't have a job already, you should have business cards that you can bring to your job interviews. There's a template that you can get done. And if you have any questions at all, you can contact her, and you should. Like we're paying for them. You're paying for them, your tuition and the taxpayers. Like you should definitely like put them to work for getting you a job. Okay? So that's my sales pitch. Anybody have any questions about any of that? Nothing? But for real, like take advantage of that. And I really try to since Linda's not here, like really take advantage of that. Like make her work harder. Make her not have time to come to classes like ours. Like do the mock interviews. They'll help you write your resume. And even if you're like, well, that's worse than I would have done myself, so what? Like you had them give it a shot. There's no reason not to try that. Okay. So, all right. So that is that. So I'm gonna upload the other PDFs, but that's the one that I usually go through, that she goes through it for us. So cool. All right. So now I'm gonna kind of pick up where we left off. I'm gonna continue on with the JavaScript file that we were working on. And anybody have any did that jog any questions for anybody? Anybody look into our JavaScript file at all? Anything confusing? Anything make perfect sense? Are you guys pro JavaScript programmers already? Okay. All right. So we're going to dig back into it. So if you don't have questions, that's a little concerning. Not really. But, why do I not have... Okay, come on. Is this the one we were working on? I thought I renamed that to be Hello World. I didn't move it, did I? Well, we're gonna find out real quick if this is broken or not. Okay. Let's see. Okay, where did my files go? So I am gonna re-download them from Canvas. That's crazy. Okay, come on. Everything's slow when I'm screen recording. Come on. Come on, why isn't it going? Why can't I scroll all the way down? Okay, whatever. This is probably ultimately better anyway, then I'm working on exactly the same ones you guys have. Alright. Okay. Here we go. Alright. So I mentioned why we lay out the JavaScript the way that we do, right? Yes, sir.
I had an error message when I tried to open
When you try to open
it.
it up, what do you mean try to open it up?
I extracted it. I can open up the notepad thing. I don't know if that's
You want to open it up into a programming text editor. So on the school computers, Notepad++ is installed. So you want to use that on school computers. If you have a laptop, you're going to use whatever you downloaded. So you can use Notepad++, you can use Atom, you can use Visual Studio Code. Those are all free downloads. You can use whatever text editor you want. Notepad is on Windows, but if you're going to need to go into Notepad and go File Open, or you're going to need to drag and drop it, or you're going to have to right click and open with Notepad, that kind of thing. You can't just double click on it. Yeah, it's going to try to open it in a browser, which isn't going to work. Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. All right, so let's back in here. Okay. All right, so this function that we have here. Does anybody remember? I explained what the purpose of this is. Does anybody recall like what I was talking about with that? At all, maybe. So this is actually a lambda function. This is actually just an anonymous function, which is a lambda. It's like all these fancy words that are used now. But in JavaScript, we have these automatically. Other languages have picked up on some of these ideas, but this allows us to create this self-running function. It doesn't have a name. When JavaScript encounters this function, it just runs this function. Okay, so programs start from the top and go down until we tell the program to go somewhere else, right? So they start top to bottom, and so it comes to this and it just runs this right away. okay? Otherwise, you have named functions like this, okay? When this named function is created, this code doesn't get called until we explicitly call it, which happens down here, okay? So there's a subtle difference there, okay? So so this function gets called right away, and it starts executing all of this code as we go down, okay? So as the program starts, the first thing it does is it sets this flag, use strict, and that sets some rules inside your web browser that says don't try to interpret what I'm doing, don't try to figure it out, do exactly what I say, okay? That's what use strict is all about. And then we have some global variables up here. Okay. So when I say variable, I think you guys know what I mean, right? Anybody want to take a stab at what a variable is? I think we talked about that the other day, right? So throw out what's a variable? Anybody in the chat want to throw that out? You have an answer, yeah?
It's a name that stuff gets assigned to, so it's easier to call.
Yeah, excellent. Yep. To hold specific data, so kind of those two things in conjunction, yeah. So we have a name, we have this name new column 1, and we're assigning some specific data to this so that we can reference this data later, okay? So when I say global variables, what do you think I mean when I say that? Yeah.
You can have like variables within different functions, I believe, and then you can have variables that exist like that go along the whole code instead of just in one little section.
Yeah. Okay. Did everybody follow that? So when I say global, global means the whole program wide. Okay. So in this case, it's a little weird because we're putting everything inside of a function. Okay. So don't get confused by that. We're always going to put everything inside of a giant function. Okay. We're always going to do that for all of our programs. And really, that's almost always going to be the case with JavaScript. So that's usually a good practice for everybody to just always do that with our JavaScript programs. But global to this function, we have these variables. So these are global variables in this context, okay? So we have this concept of scope, and that's that idea that you have the variable is scoped to this entire function. Whereas if I scroll down here, if I had a variable inside of here that I defined right here, let's define a variable here. New variable equals 2. This variable is only visible inside of this function. And so I can't even access it from this other function. I can't access it down here. It's only accessible from in here. Okay, so variable scope is very important. And variable scope is really the reason why we're putting this function, why we're using we're enclosing everything in this function. Because otherwise, these variables would be visible to other JavaScript that you would load on that page, okay? So this is why you should always encapsulate all of your JavaScript code into an anonymous function, always, okay? It's because of scope. So I'm calling it global just because you can think of these as global variables, global to our program. But you can have multiple programs running simultaneously on a page, okay? So it gets a little crazy with JavaScript, okay? All right, and I talked about the console.log. So anybody want to describe what this is doing? Anybody recall what console.log is doing? I know I went through that real quick. So let's do that again, if you don't recall. uh, uh, uh. Come on. Okay. So when we're in our web browser, um, because you're a developer now, you should get familiar with the developer tools. Okay. And all the web browsers have them, and they have different ways of getting into them. In Google Chrome, there's a hotkey, but the easiest way, in the way that I end up always doing it, is I right-click and I go to Inspect, and then it opens up this window with the developer tools. Okay, so it shows me the HTML right here. It shows me the styles over here, the styles that we're using in the style sheet, and I can change these in real time. So like I can turn off these background images. I can turn them on and off with these little checkboxes, so I can alter this code live while it's on the page. Okay. And by the way, you can do this for any page on the internet. You can edit the code that's up there. It's not going to edit it for anybody else but you can edit it. Okay. So you can see what different things do. But what console log does is we have this console tab, and we can print things out to it. And we could type things in here too, so we can interact with our JavaScript. But for right now, we can have it output things. Okay, so this is very useful for debugging. So what we did is we're outputting the values of some of our variables. Okay, so we can see what they are. So it's very useful for debugging. Okay, so when I click on these things, I can have it. I can have it print. I could have it print some more output to debug. Okay, and you should consider using that. Okay. So that's what console.log does. And so JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language. So we have this console.log. Okay. So we have the console. The console is an object, and we're calling the log method on that object. Okay. So we have the console, and we have this log function, and that just outputs to the console. Okay. And so we're going to write our own objects, and they're going to have some methods as well. So we're going to have some object-oriented programming. Don't let that scare you. But this is the syntax of it. Okay. So we have a thing, and then we have an action attached to it. So now you kind of know the basics of object-oriented programming. Hooray. All right. So then we have our two main functions that we have going on here. I have a function toggle column 1 and a function toggle column 2. And a couple things here. There's a lot of duplicate code here. We could probably trim this up and have this. There are ways to do this, to trim this up so that it's smaller, because it's the same stuff. It's doing the same thing. It's the identical code basically. We're just changing some numbers around, right? So we could probably shorten that up, and I don't think we're gonna have time today, but that's something that we might want to try to do. Okay. But anyway, all we're doing is we're just swapping. Okay. And so swapping is that's kind of a simple algorithm that we do in computer science, right? So we have the old column, and we're going to read it in. We're going to read in the content that's in the. We can actually read in the HTML, okay, that's in Hello World column 2. Okay, so if we go into our HTML here, it's going to put all this HTML. It's going to put all this that's here into that variable. Okay, it's going to do that automatically for us. That's what this inner HTML does. It's going to grab all that data, and it's going to put it into old column 2. Okay, grab the current. Oh, and I even said column 1 here. Oops, that's a typo because I copied and pasted. Right. So so we want to grab that information and we want to put it into here. Okay. And then on the next line we want to replace the screen contents. So we want to replace the stuff that we just did. So we want to replace that with new column 2, which we defined up here. But then what we want to do at the end is we want to copy the old stuff into the new stuff. Okay? So that the next time this runs, and if we see, that's how we get this effect where we can click and it goes back and forth. Okay? So each time it's copying what was there into new, and it's swapping it with old each time. Okay? And I can go over here and it does the same thing. Swaps it. Okay. So, and the actual click effect is done by this stuff, this add event listener. Okay. So again, object-oriented programming. We have the document. We have this thing in JavaScript called the DOM, the Document Object Model. Okay. And it sounds all technical and complicated. It's not. It's just this way of accessing things on the web page. Okay. So we are accessing things on the web page by, we have document, and then we have dot, and we have a method for accessing a certain thing on the page. Okay. And there are other methods, but we're going to use getElementById here. And then we're going to give it the ID. And again, the ID was over here, right here. ID equals hello world column 2. And then we're going to grab the inner HTML. Okay? And all inner HTML is, if I go back to the HTML here, is everything that's between that element's tags. The inner HTML. Okay? So it's sort of Englishy, not, it's a little technical, but not too bad. Okay? So this is there's a lot of stuff stuffed in here, right? But pretty simple, right? So you can probably, just with these simple things that we've already done, we know how to select any element on any web page now that has an ID. We know how to change any HTML on a page, right? Think how powerful you are already, right? So as long as you can select the HTML, you can change it dynamically. You know how to do that already. 2 days of programming, you can already do that on any web page. Think how cool that is. Is that not cool? Somebody in the chat better be hooting and hollering and telling me how cool that is. Tell me how cool that is. I think that's amazing. All right, so any questions so far? Did I lose anybody in any of that? I lost you?
No.
Yeah.
How do you open that on the browser?
How do I open what?
When you're exporting over your browser.
So this is part of watching the video series on how to use your computer thing, okay? So these are just files, okay? So these can be opened up in the text editor. So I can go open with, and I can open it up in Atom, but I can also open up the HTML up in a browser. Same thing, okay? And so ultimately you're going to upload these to your server, and we're gonna do that next time. So hopefully you guys make some progress on this project, and then we can upload it next time. Okay, we can all be on the same page and have it all uploaded. And then you can access it worldwide on the internet from any device. Tell me that's not awesome. You guys are not as excited as you should be. All right, cool. Somebody else, you had a question? Somebody had a question? I saw another hand, maybe? No? Okay. Anybody in the chat have hands? Okay, see? Garrett and Ella, they're providing suitable levels of excitement. Even if they're just saying awesome and wow. All right, so there's a couple things here. So the other thing that we need to do is all of our code has to validate. Okay, and I touched on that the other day. So and I'm doing this for each of the files we have. The HTML, we'll start with that. So the HTML, we have to validate it at this address. So I'm going to copy this. Learn your hotkeys. if you're on Windows, Control C. If you're on a Mac, Command C. Right? You guys know that, I hope. And then Command V here. So I'm in the validator, and we want to do validate by direct input. That's going to be the easiest for us here. And I'm going to go back to my code here. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to hit Command A, Command C, Command Tab, Command V. I do this a lot, so you build up some speed on it. And whoa, there's some craziness here. So it's giving us some errors in here, okay? So I may or may not have intentionally put some errors in here that you have to fix, okay? And this validator tells you what's wrong, okay? So, and we talked about these headings already, okay? So article lacks heading.2 using h2 through h6 elements to add identifying headings to all articles, okay? So we should totally do that inside of here, okay? And then the H1, we should definitely follow this rule too and use it as a top level heading only. Move it up, okay? Follow these rules that it's telling us, okay? So for the article and section, we should have some H2 and we should have some heading text in there, okay? And these are warnings, they're not errors, but you have to validate with no warnings, no errors, okay? Everybody follow that? So you have to fix that. Yeah, we're going to go through the other ones first. We're not going to fix those today. Maybe we'll fix those on Tuesday. So, all right, same thing with the CSS. So, we got to open this up first. So I'm going to copy this. Open up a new tab. Paste this. Again, direct input. And then I'm going to paste in the code, maybe. There we go. And this one is all good, okay? So you have to make some changes, of course, but when you make your changes, you have to revalidate them, okay? And because you're going to add some H2 through H6 to the HTML, you're going to have to add some CSS to this, so I didn't see any reason to screw that up. Now, I also know there's an error with the JavaScript. So we're going to go to jslint.com. You're going to learn to hate this a lot, but it's a lot of people hate it, but it's actually a really good tool. So jslint, we're going to copy our JavaScript, all of it, the whole thing, okay, from the top to the bottom, and we're going to hit this, okay? And we have 2 errors, okay? Now, JSLint requires that our lines not be longer than 80 characters, okay? And so you're like, well, I don't know. That's what the moron up front told me to put, so that's what I put. So how do I fix that? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a little shortcut for this to shorten this up a little bit. So JavaScript is super, super flexible. So we're going to create what I'm going to call a helper function, okay? So we're going to put it way up here, okay? I'm going to copy this. Okay. I'm going to call it by ID. And then we're going to copy this. Okay. So what JavaScript lets us do is create a shortcut. Okay? Easy as that. Okay? So we're reducing this code down to this, okay? So, and then every time I have this, I'm going to replace it with this. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to my program, make sure that it still works, make sure I didn't introduce any typos. It still works. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to drop this into the validator. And now it validates. That's what it looks like when it's clean. Okay. And we can do that even more. We can make other functions to make this more concise if we want to. So like we have this inner HTML. We can make this more concise. So there are shortcuts we could perform, right? Or this add event listener. We could make this whole thing more concise. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So and I'll give you an explanation about this stuff too. Okay. So when we create a function, we use the keyword function. So all languages have keywords that you can't use for your own stuff. So you can't create a function called function. You can't create a variable called function, because when JavaScript sees this word function, it's like the thing that follows is going to be a function. Okay? And so then we have a function, and the way when we create functions, they all start with lowercase letters. Okay? That is not the law, but that's the law of our class. Okay? There are other. That's not a technical rule of JavaScript, but it's kind of an accepted norm that everybody follows in JavaScript. Okay? And then all functions have parentheses. That's what kind of makes them a function, is these parentheses. Okay? So just like when we have this function up here, we have these double parentheses, open and close, even though there's nothing in them. But in here, we do have something in it. Okay? Does anybody know what that's called? Yeah.
Parameter.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Okay? Yeah, so this item here is called a parameter. And you guys in the chat can feel free to jump in too. I know you might be a little bit delayed because of me, but oops. So that is called a parameter. It's also called an argument, which is sort of weird. But you'll see that sometimes too. It's called an argument that's passed. Okay. And then so we have this ID, and that's that parameter that's passed. We can pass whatever we want in here. So in this case, it's going to be a string that gets passed, and a string again is just anything in quotation marks. Okay. It's like any human readable text that gets kind of passed by in quotation marks. But we don't see any of those quotation marks here because it's all variables that are being used. Okay. And then we can use that variable here or wherever in here. We could use it again and as many times as we want inside of here. Okay. And then we have another keyword here that all functions really should have, which is this keyword called return. Okay. And all functions don't have to have that. I shouldn't say it like that, but many functions have a return value. Okay. And that return value, in this case, it's returning this object. Okay. So this gets a little bit like confusing sounding, I think, but this is returning this object, okay, which is fine. We can return any kind of value we want, any kind of value that works in JavaScript we can return. And then down here, that allows us to just, that object has a property called inner HTML. Okay. So we have an object, and that object has a property called inner HTML. Okay. So, and somehow we missed one here. So, any other questions about like building a function? Yeah. 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 So, and I didn't really go into this too much. So JavaScript is very event driven. There's an event loop that we don't see. Okay. So there's kind of just a magic loop that runs all the time in the background. Like when we're on our web page, it's just running. Okay. It's just where did my mouse go? Okay. I don't know. Weird. So there's this loop going and it's checking all these things all the time. It's checking the mouse position, it's checking the state of all of these different elements, and if we can access those, so we can add a listener. We can say, all right, check to see whenever there's a click, and whenever there's a click, we want it whenever there's a click in this ID. So whenever there's a click over here on this side of the page here, then we want to call this function. Okay, so we can attach a listener, and then this just runs in the background. So this just runs automatically, okay? So when we run our program top to bottom, we have, and I'm going to collapse these two functions. It executes it sets up our variables, it outputs some things to the console log that we saw, and then it sets up our two functions. It doesn't do anything with those functions though. They don't do anything until like when we load the page. If I hit refresh, nothing is happening. There's no interaction happening until we click. Okay? And so it sets up these listeners, and they don't do anything. They're just sitting there in the background listening until we click. Okay? And that is incredibly powerful that mechanism exists for you. Okay? That listener mechanism. That's super cool. Okay? So I don't know if that was your question at all, but that's the listener mechanism is very powerful, and you can attach other listeners besides click, and we'll see some of those. Yeah.
So, when that somebody accomplishment is, either like, maybe a closing parentheses or comma and that space, then what the function is?
Yep. 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 And you can actually call a function in line here too, if you have enough space. Okay. But
If that space is required or not?
yeah. So, well, yes, yes. So, technically speaking, in JavaScript, technically speaking, we don't need any spaces anywhere. We can put everything on one line. Okay. I can put everything on one line. Any line that ends in a semicolon, it can be all those things can be attached. Okay. We could scrunch this up. We can, spaces don't matter. Okay. But JSLint will yell at you because half of the battle of code is not about what the computer is going to interpret. It's what people are going to interpret. Okay. More than half of the battle, but even for simple programs, it's half the battle. Okay. So yes, you do have to have a space. JSLint is going to yell at you if you don't. Okay. And for what we're doing, JSLint is the absolute power. Okay. It's the absolute authority on what is acceptable and what's not. Okay. Once you're out of this class, you don't ever have to touch JSLint again if you don't want to, but I recommend that you do. I think it's actually a very good tool for being strict about how things work. Okay. So, any other questions? I think we're about at time otherwise. Anybody in the chat have questions? I feel like since I haven't seen anything, I don't know if I lost everybody or not. The screen inception, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Var old column 1 equals, is that a question? Is that phrased in the form of a question? Yeah, so those are, to clarify, when we have these two lines here, where do I have those? Right here. Var old column 1 equals quote, quote, that's a null string. There's nothing in here. So that's an empty string, a null string, whatever we want to call it. There's nothing in here. So it's clearing out the string. There's nothing there. Okay. So whenever you initialize a variable, and these are both, whenever we have the var keyword, we're initializing a variable. The var keyword initializes a variable. Whenever you initialize a variable and you don't have anything to put in it right away, you should put quotes here. Okay, you technically could just do this, and JavaScript would be fine with that, but we are good programmers and we're going to make sure to put something explicitly in there. Okay. Awesome questions. Those are really good. So, oops. Eventually I'll get used to tapping to the right thing here. I'm using Atom and JSON, still says it's too long, but I can always go back and rewatch the video in case I did something wrong. So as long as you, if you did this, if you created this function and then you searched and replaced on all of the places where that appears, like here, then it should be below 80. These were the only two lines that I think went over 80. And 80 should be around where this line is, I think. So, but maybe not. And we can look at it. Is it okay if it's under 80 to replace? Absolutely. Lines can definitely be under 80, and JavaScript doesn't care if the lines are over 80. The 80 column limit is for people. Okay. And really, even 80 columns is a little wide for people. Like if you think about if you're reading like a piece of paper or a magazine article, those are not even 80 columns wide usually. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can be done. I can stop that. I'm sorry for going on so long today. Hopefully that gives you a little more clarity on the project though.